Hello, good afternoon. So today is one last time on Parfit and personal identity and all that. And then on Monday, we start on our final sweep through in the class on epiphenomenalism with Huxley's article on the hypothesis that animals are automata and its history. So Monday we start in the last wave of the class. But today is just one last time about these questions about identity and what matters and survival and so on. And the thing I want to bring out today is how basic to lots of our thinking use of the first person or something like it is. I or something like it. Of course, it doesn't have to be in English. It can be in any language you like, but something that works the way I does. And on the one hand, I is an almost trivial bit of language. It's the sign that everyone uses to refer to themselves. You say that, in a way, you've really said all there is to say about I. It's a sign that each of us uses to refer to that person, the person speaking. That's the whole thing about I. And yet, what I'll try and bring out today is it seems to play such a big role in all our emotional reactions to the world, in the whole of civilization, really. It plays such a pivotal role. But to start with, let me go back over where I thought we got to last time, thinking about Parfit. Okay, so we're talking about the concern to survive. You're told there's going to be an earthquake. Only one person in this room will make out it alive. And you naturally think, well, at any rate, I naturally think, but will it be me? Right? Or at any rate, that seems like a natural question. And you say, well, what is that concern to survive? What is it that I'm concerned about when I want to survive? And it's the survival of a person. And one way to put Parfit's picture is you're trying to give a kind of exploded view of what a person is. And by an exploded view, I mean, if you ever buy some flat pack furniture, you get these diagrams on it that are supposed to help you assemble the thing, that show it kind of blowing up with all the components coming apart. So you can see where all the components are and how they're meant to be fit together. Or you get that for, if you get a motorbike, you get an exploded view of the engine if you're trying to figure out how to fix the thing. So an exploded view of a person would describe all the components of a person and how they have to be put together to give you a person. So here we have an exploded view of some gadget whose name for the moment escapes me. But you can see what's going on with that, right? You see all the components there. You can make a list of all the components. There's the big bit down in the right there and the little bit just below it and so on. I mean, you see what I mean? And you put it together to form that kind of gadget. So can we do that with people? Could we give that kind of view of what a person is? Well, what are the components of a person? I guess you've got a body, a brain, you've got experiences. And how do you put them together? Well, you get them suitably, causally organized. That's the burden of everything we've been saying so far. So in particular, you want the earlier experiences to be causing the later experiences. That was the kind of picture. So you could start out with the components of a person. If this is time going up from bottom to top there, so you've got an earlier experience there, experience 1. You've got a later experience there, experience 2. You've got a body. And now, just assemble them, just put them together correctly, and you'll get a person. So the way you do that is you have the earlier experience causing the later experience, and you have the body causally sustaining both experiences. Yeah, that's how you'd make a person. So In those terms, the experiences at the top are going to be memories. The experiences at the bottom will be perceptions. The earlier perceptions will be causing the later memories. And there'll be a body there sustaining all of them. That's a typical person. Yep. So that would be kind of like having that kind of diagram for a person. So then if you've got this kind of diagram, then you can say, well, if I want it to be me that survives, only one person will make it out of the room. Will it be me? What I'm concerned with is that this kind of assembly should continue. I want that to continue in existence. So when you analyze the self into its components and how they're all put together, what you see is that the concern to survive isn't really properly put as a concern that I should survive. That's what Parfit calls the idea of the further fact. But if I say, but will I still be alive in 2024? Then if the doctor says to you, well, you better settle down or you won't make it to 2024, and you say, okay, I guess I better settle down because I want to make it to 2024, then the natural idea is there's a single thing, the self, and I want it to be me that makes it to 2024. But once we have that kind of analysis of the self into its components and how they're all assembled, you can see that what you're asking is, there's a body and a complex of experiences at the earlier time. In 2024, there's going to be a body and a complex of experiences, and you want there to be, in 2024, a body and a complex of experiences that's suitably related to your current body and complex of experiences. Is that okay? Put up your hand if you're perfectly comfortable with that. Good, okay. Any questions? Okay. So then, when you're asked, what is it that you care about if you want to survive? What you care about is that the string of experiences causally related to these current experiences. So you can point at your head and say, well, there's these current experiences that you're having now. And what I want is that string of experiences should propagate into the future. That the string of experiences causally related to your current string of experiences and this body, that should be as long-lasting and rich as possible. So let those experiences propagate. That's what you're thinking when you say, I want to survive. Let those experiences propagate into the future. And where we got to last time was the idea that identity just is when you've got that kind of causal continuity and you don't have branching. But branching in itself doesn't really seem to matter very much. Why care about branching? Suppose you did have branching. Well, what you have then is you've got your current body, your current complex of experiences, and then propagating into the future, you've got a body and a complex of experiences causally connected to this lot. Then you also got another complex of experiences and a body causally related to this lot. You have twice as much propagation of experiences going on as you would have in the regular case. So what you usually care about is that the string of experiences causally related to these present experiences in this body should be as long-lasting and rich as possible. What's terrible about ordinary death is that after death, there are no experiences, well, very few anyway, that are causally connected to your current experiences. But look what happens after fission. After fission, are there very few experiences related to your current experiences? No, there is a ton of experiences out there causally connected to your current experiences. You're getting everything that you really cared about in ordinary survival double. It's better than ordinary survival. Once you got the fission, then there are far more experiences causally connected to your current experiences and your body. After fission, you no longer exist. Right? That was the argument that we've had right since Monday, that lefty can't be identified with you and righty can't be identified with you. Any questions about that? You don't exist anymore after the fission. You can't be two people, but there's no reason to say you're one of them rather than the other. You're not around anymore. But what you do have is this flood of experiences causally connected to your current experiences and your body. So that is great. That's twice as good as what you'd have ordinarily. So fission is actually better than ordinary survival, even though I don't exist anymore. That's where we've got to. Yep. Why does fission matter? Yes, that's right. Well, yes, that's right. I said, why does branching matter? Yeah. Actually, that's fair enough. That's another way of putting the same thing. What I was saying was branching doesn't really seem to matter. Who cares about branching? Well, it's the same thing. Yeah, branching and fission is the same thing. No, it's perfectly fair. What I mean is, there's nothing negative about branching. It doesn't matter in the sense that you shouldn't care. It has no intrinsic significance whether there's branching or not. So it can't be a bad thing for there to be branching. Yeah, otherwise, people with one child would say, my God, I can't bear it if we have two children. That would be awful. There would be a kind of branch. There would be two people causally connected to the parents. Yeah? Wouldn't that be awful? That's just kind of clearly crazy. You might object to having two children, but not because of the branching as such. You see what I mean? So in the case of yourself, if you branch, why would you regard branching with horror? And then if you ask, well, what is it I value about ordinary survival? Well, all that there is to value is a prolongation of this string of experiences. But then you see that in the kind of branching Parfit's describing, you get twice as much of that. It's in that sense that it's better. So if you're given the prospect of ceasing to exist, but fissioning, you should go for it. Yeah, that would be great. You won't be around anymore, but everything you wanted by being around, you have double of. Yes? More is better, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, no, that hadn't occurred to me. Yeah. That's a great example. Yeah. No, I think that really connects. Actually. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a quote that makes that point wonderfully, but anyway, I'll look that up for next time. But yeah, you have one girlfriend and that's great. So two would be even better, and that's for having five. Wow. Right. Yeah. Okay. I just agree with that, and I'll actually come back to that. Okay, but I think that's a very good point. Yeah, that you really might say the branching there isn't good, but I guess the question is, how are you doing the count here? If you say in your case, it's because there are two different people. Yeah, but here what we were counting was not people exactly, but just experiences. What I wanted was the experiences to keep causally propagating. Yeah, and so all you've got to count in this picture are the components, the bits and pieces in the exploded view. Yeah. The quality of experience. Yeah. If you're going to count the quality too, then there'll be tons of. Once we get down to this level, counting quality. Having quality. If you want high quality experiences, then presumably the more high quality experiences you have, the better. Yeah, and that's what you'd care about in your survival. Yeah, but here you've got double the high quality experiences. That should be grand. Yeah. Okay. I think the girlfriend example is terrific. Actually, I really do. The only point I'm making here is you're counting different things. In the girlfriend example, you're counting people. In this example, you're counting experiences. Yeah. And the thing is, I think part of the point I want to make, really, at the end today, is that with people, you're right. Each one is, how should I say, has its own unique importance. But it's harder to make that case for experiences. It's not that each individual experience is special, and that's the one for me, if you see what I mean. What you're looking at, if you're thinking of survival in these terms, then you are just asking for a ton of future experiences. And it's not any individual one that you're locking onto. You just want a lot of them. And you just want it to go on for a long time. Yeah. Not that some one is the key one that you're interested in. Yeah. That, I think, is a disanalogy at this stage. But I think it's a very important point you're making, actually. Yeah. Yeah? Yes. I'm saying by the logic of Parfit's position, that's what you should be saying. Yeah. Fissioning would be better than ordinary survival. Yeah. Yeah. He uses the formulation, why should a double success be thought to be a failure? I guess I kind of read off from that a double success is better than a single success. You see what I mean? But certainly not failure, yeah. But you're right, he doesn't really go into the quantity the way I'm doing here. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's right, yeah. That's right. Yes. That's right. Right. Yeah. I don't think it would be the right thing for Parfit to say all that's necessary for the I to exist, because I just refers to an individual person, and that person just has ceased to exist in the fission scenario by the kind of argument you gave. But you nonetheless have survival in the sense that matters to us, even though this is kind of like the paradox at the center of the position. It sounds paradoxical. You've got everything that matters in survival, even though you cease to exist. What that shows is that, we got to that by saying, well, what do I care about when I care about survival? What I care about is a prolongation of this river of experiences. So if you think of it in terms of a waterway, right? I'm part of the River Conservation Board. I devote my life to making sure that this stretch of water continues to exist. Yeah, and then it turns out there are plans to make it so there's going to be a delta. Yeah. Well, why should I care about that? That would be great. Now I got more of the river than I had before. Yeah, and I would really be getting very strung out if I said, but it won't be the river wherever it is, the River Thames or whatever, because this one can't be the same one. This one can't be the same. They can't both be the same one. There's no reason for saying So it's not the same river. Anyone in the River Conservation Board would say, that's nuts. What you want is water, and lots of water. You're getting lots of water. Go for it. You see what I mean? It would be crazy to say, well, if you really care about the river, you'll cut this one off. Yep. So what that brings out is that what I care about in conserving the river is not identity. It's prolongation of the water molecules or something like that. Yeah. Just as here, I want these rivers of these streams of consciousness to continue to be preserved, conserved. And I can have that even though there's a delta. Yeah. So identity is not the key thing in survival. Okay, suppose you were given the choice right now. We can do it. We can fission you. We can make it the case that we'll give you a few months to make practical preparations. We'll make sure that financially everything works out and you're all looked after. You can fission. Can you put your hand up if you'd go for it? I mean, let's suppose the procedure is perfectly safe, been tested on tons of animals. It's going to work. You know it's going to work. Can you put your hand up if you'd go for it? Fission. 1. Okay. 2. Yeah. And if you wouldn't go for it? Whoa. Okay. What's wrong with fission? Is it just too spooky? Or... Well, for heaven's sake. I spent 30 minutes eloquently explaining to you the virtues of fission. Two people are going for it, yeah? Sorry? Oh, yeah. What it would be like, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Is fission going to be a transformative experience? Yeah. I mean, because in a way it isn't transformative at all, because it's not like lefty and righty both turn into vampires, or lefty and righty both become parents, or whatever your favorite example, both get a new sense or something. They're just both, each of them is a regular person. Yeah. But at the same time, you're right, it feels like a transformative experience. I guess it's something like you want to project into the future person, and you don't quite know how to go about projection. Is it something like that? Yeah. That's a spooky thing. I can't quite get my head around it. That's what put up your hand if something like that is a reason you're not going to go for fission. You can't quite get your head around it. That's really interesting. Okay, I think that's a great reason not to go for fission. I agree. Anything else on that? Yeah. 1, 2. That's right. You're not going to. Okay. Yeah. I see that. I'm not going to exist. What's in it for me? That's like the bottom line. There's nothing in it for you. And you might say, well, look, this is all very well, all this complicated argument about the river of consciousness going on double, but I want to be there, and that's just... There is nothing I care about more than that. That's just the bedrock that I care about. Something like that? Is that? Yeah. Yeah? It would what, sorry? It is controversial. Yes. Yes, right. That is yes. If you thought of your relation to your future self as like your relation to a girlfriend, then splitting would not be good. Is that right? For you only. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I've never thought about fission in those terms. Okay, I see what you're saying. Antonia? Yes.
I mean, again, it's not really on the subject, but if you're staying continuous with you to have a conversation with you're staying continuous with you.
Yes.
I mean, this is a way to kind of boost up the line of this is my own experience. You would
Yeah.
like to be on both sides of the conversation at once.
Right.
Cool, right?
Right.
Yeah, I want to check it out. But then,
Yeah, that would be a genuinely new experience. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yep. Lack of control. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. But why is that worse than the usual case? I mean, suppose that in 10 years you go right off the very unlikely, but suppose that in 10 years you go right off the tracks. That might happen. None of us can rule that out. Yeah. Does that mean you don't have control? In the some sense in which you don't have control, but yeah. But I don't know. I think this is interesting that there is another sense in which if you make a vow right now, if you say, I'm never going to another philosophy class, and that's that, right? Or, you take some vow that you bind yourself to, then you feel constrained by it, right? But it's a good question, if you fissioned, should both of your fission products be constrained by that? I'm never going to that restaurant again. That's okay. And then you get these two fission products, neither of them is you. And they say, yeah, I remember that person back then who was someone different to me making that vow. Well, so what? I'll do what I like. It wasn't my vow. Yeah, in that sense, you don't have control. You can't really bind them to do what you want. Is that catching what you meant? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. These are great comments. I think that too just really hits at something about the way the identity of the person really matters to us. And it's just getting lost here. Yeah. As if all you've got are these components and relations between the components. I think we do care about the identity of the self in a way that you guys' examples are bringing out. Okay. Let me try and start on not exactly how persons are important here, but how I matter so much. Remember, this is the best thing that Parfit ever wrote, I think, this paragraph about we're strongly inclined to believe our continued existence is a deep further fact, distinct from physical and psychological continuity. When I thought that my own identity mattered very much, I seemed imprisoned in myself. My life seemed like a glass tunnel through which I was moving faster every year, and at the end of which there was darkness. And then when I changed my view, when I realized that this kind of thing is all that's going on, when it's just a collection of experiences and their prolongation into the future, when I changed my view, the walls of my glass tunnel fell away. I now live in the open air. There's still a difference between my life and the lives of other people, but the difference is less. And I think his idea is that when you replace I with, when you stop saying, what's in it for me, or will I make it, or that kind of thing, when you stop doing that, and you say, the series of experiences causally dependent on this body, that's what I care about, then you immediately see that it's arbitrary for you to be concerned with rooting for this string of experiences rather than any other string of experiences. Once you state what your self-concern is in those terms, then it just immediately becomes hard to take it so seriously. You get a kind of distancing. You see what I mean? That if I stop saying, what's in it for me, and start saying, how will the string of experiences causally dependent on this string of experiences benefit? Well, that just doesn't have the same kind of urgency. You've identified what it is that's really going on, and your concern is now immediately revealed as arbitrary. So what he's saying is you still might care more about this one than about the others, but it's going to be less. There's going to be less passion in it. See, that distancing from your concern with your own future life, that's a consequence of replacing I'm going to survive, take out the I, and replace it with this series of experiences will be causally propagated into the future. But, yes. That's exactly what I think. Yeah, I said at the start, this seems like an almost trivial linguistic device, yeah? But it has such incredible power in the way we think. Whether, like if you go back to that example about imagining your pain or imagining, we had that example of someone feeling that someone is following them, yeah? And if I imagine someone feeling that they're being followed, that's so different from if I feel I'm being followed myself. Whether it's me makes a huge difference to your emotional reaction to it. Yeah. Yeah. That's right, but you only get the power when you translate it back into talk about which one's me, if you see what I mean. The idea here is replace that use of I with that ground floor and don't translate back. And then it seems arbitrary. Why should I be reacting differently to it's a certainly bizarre figure, but I hope you see what I mean. Why should I react differently to the idea that this series of experiences will be causally connected to strings of experiences that are being followed about in the future, as opposed to that string of experiences being causally connected to a string of experiences being followed about in the future? Or if there's going to be pain in the future here, or pain in the future there, why should my emotional reaction be different? That seems arbitrary. Why not react in just the same way to both of them? Yeah? And you only get the magic of the difference in reaction if you say I, one of them is me. Don't do that. And that's what he means, the walls of the glass tunnel fall away. I'm living in the open air. The difference between this string of experience and that string of experiences seems to be much less. Yes. Whoa, okay. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. That what's going on in the Williams examples is you're told, in the one case you're told, there'll be you there, mad and in pain. And what you're doing is superimposing that. You're thinking, that'll be me. And then, almost arbitrarily, you switch over that I to the cobbler body person, and you say, oh, that'll be me. And what you're doing is you're just taking that magic of I and moving it around. The underlying facts about the strings of experiences and all that are just the same. But this magical thinking that we do with I, is what's responsible for this huge difference in emotional reaction. And it can't be justified. That's the picture. Yeah. I think it's very powerful, this picture of Parfit. But I do want to try and bring out how alien it is. If you don't have I, if you're not going to think in terms of I, you can't locate yourself in the way that we usually do. And this is a famous example from the Stanford philosopher John Perry. It's great to read these things by famous philosophers because you get an insight into their home lives. This is Perry going around the Palo Alto supermarket. I once followed a trail of sugar on a supermarket floor. Right, so I was in the supermarket, there's a trail of sugar on the floor. I was pushing my cart down the aisle on one side of a tall counter and back the aisle on the other, seeking the shopper with a torn sack of sugar to tell him he was making a mess. With each trip around the counter, the trail became thicker, but I seemed unable to catch up. Okay, this is Perry at the shops. Right. Finally, it dawned on me. I was the shopper I was trying to catch. I believed at the outset that the shopper with a torn sack was making a mess, and I was right. But I didn't believe that I was making a mess. We've all been there. Right? You see what's going on? Yeah? So, in its small way, it's kind of a revelation when you move from thinking the shopper with the torn sack is making a mess to thinking I'm making a mess. Suddenly, you're the one that's got to clear this up. You're the one that's got to do something about it. Yeah? Before, you were chasing this other person to get them to see the error of their ways. So, that shift from the shopper with the torn sack is making a mess to I'm making a mess, that seems to be something I came to believe. I'm making a mess. And when I came to believe that, I stopped following the trail around the counter and rearranged the torn sack in my cart. So I changed my belief, and that explains my change in behavior. But what Parfit's telling us is, eliminate that talk about I. Don't think I'm making a mess. Just think, the series of experiences that's associated with this body is making a mess. Right? That's what you'd be doing. You think, well, there's this string of experiences, the body associated with that string of experiences, that's making a mess. Well, why should I care about that? Why should it be my problem? Why would that be a revelation? I knew it was a string of experiences that was making the mess here. I knew it was somebody or other. And when you think, I'm doing that in everyday life, somebody's making a noise, there's some irritating noise going on, and someone says to you, you're doing that. And you say, oh my God, am I? So, okay. That happens, half a dozen times a day, that kind of thing. It's me that's doing that. But if Parfit was right, you should stop thinking like that. Just the most elementary sense of who's doing what would just vanish. And that distancing that's making the glass walls fall away, that's also eliminating your most basic ideas about agency, who's doing what, or who's responsible for what. You can't have these ideas in Parfit's world. I mean, it seems very beneficial to eliminate self-interest in the way Parfit's recommending, have the walls of the glass tunnel fall away. But that also means the difference between being the one who's making the mess and not being the one who's making the mess, that difference also vanishes. Another way to get at this is to think, the argument about fission was, after the fission, you get far more experiences, far more memory experiences related to your current experiences than you had before. And the argument was, well, wouldn't that be great? But actually, the thing is that usually what you think is those memory impressions that you have later, those are supposed to be true. And we care about whether our memory impressions are correct. That was the thing about total recall, that, as I remember it, is something like, you find out that the apparent memories you've got are not correct. They're not true. This wasn't your earlier life. This was someone else's life that's been implanted in you. And in the movie, Schwarzenegger goes to Mars in order to find out what really went on. And, I mean, I don't quite know why it's Mars, but the thing is that seems perfectly reasonable. You'd really want to know. You wouldn't just say, well, there are lots of experiences around, that's the key thing. You want the memories to be true. And if you've got a fission case where lefty seems to remember doing what you did and righty seems to remember doing what you did, they can't both be right. Both lefty is thinking, I did that. I mean, when I was 10 years old, let me just share this with you. I won a prize for general excellence. In all the vicissitudes that life has thrown at me since, I hold on to that. I won that prize, imagine that, general excellence. I like to think that counts for something. But look, if I fission, lefty's going to be saying, hey, I won a prize for general excellence. Righty's going to be saying, I won a prize for general excellence. Neither of them, they can't both have won it, right? Part of the whole thing is that the prize only get given to one person. Let me tell you. Not two. So lefty and righty can't both be right when they're thinking that. In fact, neither of them can be right because we know they're not identical to the person who won that prize. So you're getting that distancing from your own apparent memories in fission. It's not just that the walls between you and other people have fallen apart. The walls between you and your earlier self have fallen. The walls connecting you to your earlier self have fallen apart too. There isn't going to be anyone who remembers seeing and doing what you saw and did. I mean, take wherever your own most precious memories are right now. If there's fission, there'll be nobody around who has the right to say, I saw and did all that stuff. I was there for that. There will be people who have these impressions that they were there for that. But once they understand the situation, they'll have to say, that wasn't me. It's like the Schwarzenegger Total Recall case. I wasn't the one who did that. And isn't that, after all, going to be just as bad as ordinary death? There isn't going to be anybody around who can truly say, I was the one back then who did that stuff. Or here, I don't think this is as good as the girlfriend example we had earlier, but if someone says, if you say, I vow to love you forever, and then there's fission, well, what happens then? Do both lefty and righty have to be bound by those vows? Well, actually, neither of them have to be bound by the vows, because neither of them is identical to the person who made the vows. So why should they care what some other person vowed? That doesn't bind them. The person who made the vows no longer exists. But look, you might want to be bound by those vows. That was the whole point of making the vow. You wanted to be bound by it. So how could that be just as good as ordinary survival if there's nobody around who's bound by what you vowed earlier? So you're losing the memories. You're losing those commitments that you wanted to take on. I mean, is that really twice as good as ordinary survival? Lefty and righty don't have any reason to be bound by your past intentions. Lefty and righty don't have any memories, any correct memories of what you saw and did. Why would that be as good as ordinary survival? What I'm trying to bring out here is how this I here really comes back in. That I is so important to what we care about in ordinary survival. I don't think you can just strip it out and say, let's just leave those memories otherwise intact. If the memories have got the I stripped out, but they're not, and even if they're otherwise intact, you don't have correct memories. Or just to take a really simple example about how if you think about this example, the whole of civilization depends on this. Look, suppose I borrow $20 from you. Okay? I say, I need $20. Give me the $20, please. And then I fission. Who owes you the 20? Do you get your money back? Who's going to give you the money back? Do both lefty and righty owe you $20? Neither of them is the person. I guess you don't get your money back, right? Because the person who borrowed the money is no longer around. Yeah? So you don't get your money back. Or you might say, well, if there's fission, maybe they both owe you $10. Something like that. Or, yeah, well, maybe that seems fair. But suppose I fission, and so both of my products owe you $10 each. But then, suppose you fission. Who gets what? Do both of your fission products get $10 each? And who has to give it to them? Or does everybody get 20? No, wait a minute. Does everybody get $20? I mean, I don't really know how you'd begin to answer those questions. Yeah? There's just a kind of breakdown here in ordinary social relations. Once you strip out the self, you're not keeping track. I mean, and I don't want to seem too materialistic here, but that stuff about borrowing $20, that seems to me one of the things that really matters, right? I mean, who gets the money? It's not as if you can fission and say, well, all the important things are kept. What about the 20? Where's my $20? Right? I mean, how come I don't get my $20? That was important. So I think that I thinking plays at such a big... I'm actually with the commenter earlier who said, I just take I thinking as really basic. I thinking just is really basic, it seems to me, in our thought about what matters. And I think you can connect this to the big theme we've had about imagination. Remember we talked about, when we were talking about Laurie Paul, about the difference between imagining your future serenity on your part and future pain on your part, and how even although objectively there's not much difference between these two scenarios, it would make a huge difference to you, whether it's you that's getting the pain or you that's getting the serenity. What we care about, in figuring out what we care about, that was part of the point of all this stuff about transformative choices and all that. That in figuring out what matters, what you're going to do practically in the future, you're trying to imaginatively project into these future situations. And that imaginative projection just involves using I. It involves thinking, what will I be doing in the future? And maybe you can't have, it's not obvious to me, but maybe you could have some imaginative understanding of animals that don't use I. But in general, for humans, imaginative understanding of your own future or imaginative understanding of other people always involves using I. It always involves thinking of the person as someone who can think of themselves as the same thing, the same intelligent thinking thing at different times and places. That use of the imagination is what connects to everything that we most basically care about. And it always involves using I. So my argument would be it's not a liberating thing to drop the use of I. It just makes it impossible anymore to see why anything matters at all. Okay, thanks guys. Great comments.